In 1892, in a small town in Iowa, a blacksmith named John Froelich bolted a gasoline engine onto a set of wheels and accidentally started a revolution that would feed the entire planet. Because here is something almost nobody thinks about. Every meal you have ever eaten, every loaf of bread, every bowl of rice, every scrap of food that kept you alive, traces back, somewhere along the line, to a machine dragging an implement through soil. And that machine has been reinvented, from the ground up, not once, but 7 separate times. Each revolution solved a problem the last one could not. Each one seemed impossible right before it happened, and each one quietly changed how many human beings this planet could keep alive. This is the complete story of the tractor, told in 7 revolutions. From a hissing steam giant that weighed as much as a house, to a silent robot that plows a field at night with no human being anywhere near it. Stay to the end, because the 7th revolution is happening right now, on farms today, and most people have no idea it is even real. Let's start where it all began, with fire and water and iron. Before the tractor, there was muscle. For 10,000 years, farming ran on exactly 2 power sources: the muscles of animals and the muscles of human beings. An ox, a horse, a man behind a plow from sunrise to sunset. That was agriculture, unchanged for the entire history of civilization. And then, in the middle of the 1800s, came steam. The first revolution was the steam traction engine. And to understand it, you have to picture something almost absurd. Imagine a machine the size of a small house, 20,000 pounds of iron, a towering boiler, a smokestack belching black coal smoke, giant steel wheels taller than a grown man, and a firebox that had to be fed constantly with coal or wood just to keep it crawling forward at walking pace. In the 1860s, an English engineer named John Fowler used steam engines to drag plows across fields on long steel cables, pulling the plow back and forth between 2 of these giants parked at the edges of the field. For the first time in history, you could turn soil deeper and faster than any horse team on Earth. But here is the catch that would define the entire first era. These machines were monsters. They were so heavy, they sank into soft ground and got hopelessly stuck. They needed a crew of several men just to operate. Someone to steer, someone to feed the fire, someone to haul water and coal. They cost a fortune, and they had an unpleasant habit of exploding when a boiler was pushed too hard. So steam power did something strange. It proved that machines could replace animals on the farm. That was the revolutionary idea, and it changed everything. But steam itself was too big, too expensive, and too dangerous to ever put a machine on every farm. Steam opened the door, but it was far too heavy to walk through it. The world needed something lighter, something a single farmer could own, and start, and drive alone. And in a blacksmith shop in Iowa, that something was about to be born. The second revolution was the internal combustion engine, and it shrank the tractor from a giant into a tool. In 1892, John Froelich mounted a single-cylinder gasoline engine onto a chassis, added his own gearbox so he could actually control it, and built a machine that could move forward, move backward, and pull a load. It is widely considered the first practical gasoline tractor built in America. That same year, his machine powered a threshing run through the harvest, and proved that a compact engine could do the work of the steam giants at a fraction of the size and weight. But invention is not the same as adoption, and this is where 2 things had to happen to truly change the world. First, the word itself. All the way up to about 1906, these machines were still called traction engines. Long, clunky, hard to say. Then the Hart Parr Company of Charles City, Iowa, needed a snappier word for their advertising, and a sales manager coined one: tractor. It caught on so completely that within a few years the entire industry, and eventually the entire English language, used it. Almost nobody remembers it started as a marketing invention. Hart Parr also built some of the first commercially successful gasoline tractors in America. But their biggest legacy is a single word every farmer on Earth now uses without thinking. And second, the price. Because a tractor that only rich farmers could afford was not a revolution. It was a luxury. The man who fixed that was Henry Ford. In 1917 and 1918, Ford began mass-producing the Fordson, using the same assembly line thinking that had made his automobiles cheap. The Fordson was small, light, simple, and above all, affordable. A regular farmer could actually buy one. And they bought them by the hundreds of thousands. The Fordson was not just an American story either. Ford built Fordsons in Cork, Ireland in the 1920s, the first mass-produced tractor made outside the United States, in the very country his own family had left generations before. And when the Soviet Union set out to mechanize its enormous farms, it bought and copied the Fordson by the tens of thousands, until that little gray tractor was plowing collective farms across a country an ocean away. One cheap, simple design spread across 3 continents and 2 hostile political systems. By the end of this revolution, the tractor was no longer a rare giant at the edge of a rich man's field. It was becoming a normal tool on an ordinary farm. But it still had 3 enormous weaknesses, and the next revolution would attack all 3 at once. The third revolution is really 3 breakthroughs that arrived so close together they reshaped the entire machine in a single decade. The 1930s. If the gasoline era gave the tractor a body, this era gave it muscle, feet, and hands. First, the muscle. Diesel power. In 1931, Caterpillar introduced the Diesel 60, opening a long transition away from gasoline and kerosene. Diesel engines offered more torque at low speeds, better fuel efficiency, and far greater durability under heavy loads. For a machine whose entire job is pulling hard, slowly, all day long, diesel was simply better, and it eventually became the standard for nearly every serious tractor on Earth. Second, the feet, rubber tires. For decades, tractors rolled on steel wheels with big lugs that bit into the dirt. They worked in the field, but they tore up roads, rode brutally, and wasted energy. Then in 1932, Alice Chalmers, working with Firestone, put pneumatic rubber tires on the Model U. The difference was staggering. Better traction, better fuel economy, higher speeds, and a ride that did not shake a man's teeth loose. Within about 5 years, rubber tires had replaced the majority of steel wheels. The tractor could finally drive to town. And third, the hands. This is the one most people have never heard of, and it might be the most important of all. In 1939, an inventor named Harry Ferguson commercialized his 3-point hitch on the Ford Ferguson 9N. Now, why does a hitch matter? Before this, attaching a plow to a tractor was clumsy and genuinely dangerous. If the plow hit a rock or a root, the tractor could rear up backward and flip over on top of the driver, killing him. It happened constantly. Ferguson's 3-point hitch connected the implement at 3 points and used hydraulics to sense the load, lifting and lowering the tool smoothly and holding it steady. It made implements safer, faster to change, and vastly more precise. That same basic hitch is on nearly every tractor sold today, almost a century later. Add one more piece from just before this era, the power takeoff, or PTO, which became common in the 1920s. The PTO let the tractor send engine power directly out to a spinning shaft, driving machines like balers, mowers, and threshers. The tractor was no longer just a thing that pulls, it became a thing that powers other things. Put it all together, diesel engine, rubber tires, 3-point hitch, PTO, and by the end of the 1930s, the basic blueprint of the modern tractor was essentially finished. If you look at a farm tractor from 1940 and one from today, the fundamental layout is the same. Everything after this revolution is refinement, comfort, scale, and intelligence. And the next revolution went after something no one had ever bothered to care about, the human being sitting in the seat. The fourth revolution, running roughly from the 1950s through the 70s, split into 2 directions at once. The tractor got dramatically more powerful, and for the first time, it started caring about the person driving it. Start with power. As farms in the mid-20th century got bigger, they needed tractors that could pull wider implements across more acres. The answer was articulated four-wheel drive. Tractors that bent in the middle to steer, with power going to all four huge wheels. This unlocked horsepower classes that would have been completely unusable on the old two-wheel drive machines. In the American Midwest, a family named Steiger literally built their first giant four-wheel drive tractor in their own barn, painted it lime green, and were soon in business, selling machines that could pull enormous loads across the vast fields of the Great Plains. Then came comfort and safety. And this is a story with a hero who was decades ahead of his time. Back in 1938, Minneapolis Moline built a tractor called the UDLX, nicknamed the Comfort Tractor. It had a fully enclosed cab, a heater, a radio, roll-down windows, and it could go over 40 miles an hour on the road. So a farmer could work all day and then drive it to town for dinner. It was brilliant. And it completely flopped. It cost nearly twice a normal tractor in the depths of the Great Depression, and farmers thought an enclosed cab was a soft, foolish luxury. They built only about 150 of them. But here is the beautiful irony. Everything the UDLX was mocked for became standard. By the 1960s and 70s, the industry finally embraced the enclosed cab and added something that saved thousands of lives. The ROPS, the Rollover Protective Structure. Tractor rollovers had been one of the leading killers of farmers for generations. The protective cab and roll bar meant that when a tractor tipped, the operator lived. Add air conditioning, a real seat, and heating, and the tractor cab went from a dusty, deafening, dangerous perch to a genuine workplace. That mocked little comfort tractor from 1938 is now one of the most valuable collector tractors alive, because it saw the future 40 years early. By the end of this revolution, the tractor was powerful enough to farm at massive scale and safe and comfortable enough to run all day without breaking the human inside it. The machine was, mechanically, close to perfect. Which raised a strange new question. If the machine is nearly perfect, how do you make it better? The answer would not come from steel or engines at all. It would come from space. The fifth revolution did not change the tractor's body at all. It changed the tractor's mind. And it came, unbelievably, from satellites orbiting the Earth. Starting in the 1990s, farmers began connecting their tractors to GPS, the Global Positioning System. And this unlocked something that sounds impossible when you first hear it. A tractor could now know exactly where it was in a field, down to a couple of centimeters. Think about what that means in practice. Before GPS, a farmer steered by eye. And no human can drive perfectly straight across a mile-long field. So every pass overlapped the last one a little, to make sure no strip got missed. Across a whole season, that overlap wasted enormous amounts of seed, fuel, fertilizer, and time. GPS auto steer erased that waste. The tractor could now drive itself in a dead straight line, pass after pass, with almost no overlap at all. The farmer's hands could come off the wheel. Fuel savings, seed savings, chemical savings, all from the machine simply knowing precisely where it was. But precision farming went far deeper than steering. With GPS and sensors, farmers could now map their fields foot by foot, which patches of soil were rich, which were poor, which were wet, which were dry. And then the tractor and its implements could respond automatically, planting seeds closer together in the good soil and farther apart in the poor, spraying more fertilizer only where it was needed and less where it was not. Instead of treating an entire field the same, the farmer could now treat every square foot differently. And this is called precision agriculture, and it meant growing more food using less fuel, less chemical, and less waste. Better for the wallet and better for the land. The tractor had gained a sense of place. It knew where it was and what the ground beneath it needed. And once a machine knows exactly where it is and what it is doing, it is only one small step from asking a very big question. Does it even need a human being in the seat at all? That question is the seventh and final revolution. But there is one more piece that had to click into place first. The sixth revolution is the quiet one, the one that does not make dramatic headlines, but made everything after it possible. From roughly the 2000s into the 2020s, the tractor became clean, and it became connected. Clean first. For most of the tractor's history, nobody thought much about the black diesel smoke pouring out of the stack. But modern emission standards, the tier and stage regulations, forced manufacturers to dramatically cut the pollution from diesel engines. Today's clean diesel tractors run far cleaner than their ancestors, using advanced systems to scrub the exhaust. The engine that has powered farming for 90 years learned to breathe clean and connected. This is the part that quietly set up the future. Modern tractors gained a common electronic language, a standard called ISOBUS, that lets the tractor and its implements actually talk to each other, no matter who made them. Plug in a planter or a sprayer from a different brand, and the tractor's screen can control it directly. On top of that came telematics. The tractor became a connected device, streaming data about its location, its fuel use, its performance, and its maintenance back to the farmer's computer or phone in real time. At the same time, the first electric and battery-powered tractors began to appear. Small ones, at first, for lighter work, pointing toward a future beyond diesel entirely. Here is why this quiet revolution matters so much. A machine that produces detailed data, that speaks a common digital language to its tools, and that stays connected to a network. That is a machine that is ready to be automated. The sixth revolution did not look flashy, but it built the nervous system that the final revolution would need. It turned the tractor from a powerful machine into a smart, connected node in a digital farm. And that brings us, at last, to the revolution happening right now. The one that would have looked like pure science fiction to John Froelich, tinkering in his blacksmith shop back in 1892. The seventh revolution removes the last thing every tractor has needed for over a century, the human being in the seat. This is the age of the autonomous tractor. Using GPS, cameras, radar, and artificial intelligence, tractors are now being built that can drive themselves across a field with no operator on board at all. They measure their own position and speed. They calculate the distance to obstacles. They can detect an object, a person, or an animal in their path, and stop on their own. And one operator, sitting at a screen, can potentially oversee an entire fleet of them working at once. Picture the implications. A self-driving tractor does not get tired. It does not need to sleep. It can work through the night, plowing or planting a field in complete darkness, guided by satellites and sensors, while the farmer is asleep in bed. It can work with a precision and consistency no human being could sustain for 16 hours straight. And it addresses one of the biggest crises in modern agriculture, the shortage of farm labor. When you cannot find enough people to work the land, a machine that works itself is not a luxury. It is survival, and it is only the beginning. Beyond self-driving, artificial intelligence and robotics are entering the field in ways that sound like science fiction. Robotic arms that can identify and pick a single ripe fruit, sensors that read the health of individual plants, systems that make thousands of tiny decisions a second about exactly how to treat each patch of ground. The tractor is becoming less of a vehicle a person drives and more of an intelligent, self-optimizing unit inside a fully digital farm. Think about the full arc of that. We started with an ox and a man behind a plow. We passed through a steam giant the size of a house. Through Froelich's rattling gasoline machine, Ford's cheap gray Fordson, the diesel and rubber and the three-point hitch, the powerful safe cab, the satellite in the sky, the connected clean engine, and we have arrived at a machine that plows a field alone, in the dark, thinking for itself. 7 revolutions. Each one impossible right before it happened, each one feeding more people than the last. So, the next time you drive past a field and you see a tractor working the soil, remember what you are actually looking at. You are not looking at a simple farm machine. You are looking at the single most reinvented tool in human history, a machine rebuilt from the ground up 7 separate times, each time to solve a problem that was quietly a matter of life and death for a growing planet. From fire and water and iron, to a single word coined for an advertisement, to satellites and artificial intelligence. The humble tractor has, more than almost any machine ever built, decided how many of us this earth can feed. And the seventh revolution, the age of the thinking, self-driving machine, is still being written, right now, in fields all over the world. Nobody knows yet what the eighth revolution will be. But if history is any guide, it is already being tinkered together, somewhere, in a workshop, by someone the world has not heard of yet. Exactly like a blacksmith named Froelich, over 130 years ago. If you enjoyed this journey through the iron and history that feeds the world, subscribe and stay with us, because we have more stories from the golden age of old iron coming your way. Thank you for watching.